So here we are again. This is the final hookup. Everything's hooked up now. Everything is working, and we're ready to start playing. So we thought we'd go through and just give you a quick little video on everything that is connected and how we connected it. Because again, there's videos out there that were very helpful in what equipment was needed, but nothing really showing how the things are connected. So that's what we'll do now. We started with the bass organ, and this is still the core. It's a Hammond A105. On top of that is a very simple but effective and efficient Yamaha keyboard. This keyboard gives us some extra sounds and things like that that I was looking for. We've got the Leslie speaker. Here are the Leslie switches. We've talked about that in other videos. And then over here, off to the side, is a Hammond Autovary 64. That's this unit here. Here is a small mixer. And then on the floor, right below all of this, is a keyboard amplifier that we need to run separate signals. So that's all the elements. And now we can talk about how this is actually all hooked up. We've opted to leave the organ in organ, so none of the peripherals go through the organ. The organ itself, we actually went in the back and installed an in and out line for the organ, and that's done through the preamp. We'll probably do a separate video on how to make that connection, but it's essentially coming off one of the main power tubes in the tone pot in the preamp, and we mounted an in and out RCA jacks. We mounted them right onto the framing or the box of the A028 preamp. So there's a line in and a line out for the organ. The line out from the organ, let me turn this a little bit for you so we can talk about both. The line out from the organ comes into this effects unit, and we're running it mono because the organ is a monaural signal, so it goes into the left jack in the back of the effects unit. The signal out from the effects unit goes into the mixer, gives it a real nice balance. And then the mixer signal goes out of the mixer and goes to the line in on the organ. And that allows us to take the organ sound without altering it at all, putting the effects on into it, and then running it back into the organ. So the organ itself still runs the way it does. It plays through the speakers in the A105, and it plays through the Leslie speaker. Nothing has changed there other than the fact that we now have it in and out, and we can put effects through there, and we can balance the signal to make it as clean or as wet, dry, muddy, whatever, between the effects unit and the mixer. The Yamaha keyboard, this Yamaha keyboard sits on top of the organ. We found a set of racks that work really well in setting this organ right on top of the keyboard. These are special made. There's a company that makes these specifically for putting keyboards on the tops of Hammond organs. Here's the rack. It's very nice, very well made, and it fits perfectly on here, so that you can put your extra keyboard right where you want it, and it's just a matter of setting it up there, and you're done. It sits exactly where it's supposed to sit. Okay? We'll leave this rack off. Now, for our purposes, because the way this keyboard is built, it hangs out a little too far, so I put two little custom lights under here to light up the drawbars so you can see what you're doing. And these are just standard, pretty simple LEDs that I can turn on and off when I need them, and it gives it a nice look. So the keyboard sits on top of the organ. It's got a line out, and that line out runs into the mixer, and the signal is mixed. Now we've got a separate line out coming from the mixer. One goes back to the organ and keeps the organ's signal separate. The other line out from the mixer comes down to the keyboard amplifier on the floor, because we're running the Yamaha keyboard, which is this keyboard on the top of the organ, and we're running the rhythm unit, which is this unit here, through the amplifier. That way the organ stays an organ and we're not running any other signals through there. So the rhythm unit also has a line out, and that comes into the mixer, and then it's paired with the line out from the mixer that goes into the amp. So what comes out of the amp again is the keyboard and the rhythm unit. Now the amp has effects on it, so we can still get the effects of a hall or some reverb or something like that for that second keyboard and for the drums through the rhythm unit, but they don't have to be, they typically aren't as strong or intense as the effects that we put on the main organ. The other thing, the final thing we did was the effects unit doesn't have an on-off switch. So all the peripherals, the keyboard, the rhythm unit, the mixer, and the effects unit are all plugged into a power strip with an on-off switch. So you can hit that power switch, all the peripherals come on at the same time, because the way you power these things up is anything with an amplifier you want to turn on last. Anything that's connected to it you turn on first. Final thing is, if you look at the back of the organ, this A105 organ has a three-part lid, and this lid typically folds down and rests here. This is actually a really nice piece of furniture. Well, we didn't want to take this lid off. However, the stands or the racks that hold this keyboard in place are designed for only 2 layers thickness of wood, kind of like the B3, because it folds back and it doesn't have this third piece on it. So we figured out a way by just taking a simple strand of wire and running it from the lock mechanism to the hinge, where we can actually hold this third piece up, and it does a really nice job of finishing off the whole instrument. So now this Yamaha keyboard isn't sitting out on top by itself. You can't see the racks or anything. It just provides a nice back. It's exactly the right height. And that way we were able to leave the organ in its original shape. We didn't have to take any hinges off. And if we want to close it, it's just a matter of taking the keyboard off, and I can fold the whole thing down and close the organ up. So that's the setup. And as I said, it took a while to figure it out, but the organ is now set and everything is connected and it works very well.